Yep.
Hello everyone. I'm very pleased today. This is Richard Chartrand on the Living Stronger Longer podcast and YouTube channel. And I'm pleased today to be joined from the Netherlands, Arjan Meijer, whose YouTube channel I've been watching for some time and have been very impressed with Arjan. Arjan has a great physique. He's a natural bodybuilder. He is, he's probably going to tell me, I think he has competed at various times. I don't know if he's competed lately. And he does a really good job of demonstrating exercises. I highly recommend his channel. I will put links to the YouTube channel in the podcast so that people can check it out. Highly recommend. Somebody who obviously is a thinking person because you can see in his explanations that he's taking into consideration various aspects of proper training and adapting things to make them work for him. So, Arjan, maybe you can give me a little bit of your background. When did you first start exercising regularly? Do you have an athletic background? How you came to eventually be interested in high intensity training, as it's called in some circles. It goes by different names, but anyways, just let people know a little bit about yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Arjan. I'm from the Netherlands. I started doing physical activities when I was 6 years old. Like everybody, every little boy in the Netherlands, we have to go play soccer, what you call it. We call it football. Because everybody does this, or anybody did this back in the 70s. Did this for 6-7 years. Luckily quit with it because I didn't like that. I don't like sports that plays with other people because I like to win and do not like to lose because of others. So then I did from the age of 13 till 18, I did judo. This nice individual sport. Did competition in there, low levels, but anyway, competitions. Won a few, lost a few. Then finally, because yeah, as everybody knows, with a little bit of older, that back in the 80s, below 18 years old, anyway, in the Netherlands, we could not go alone into the gym and work out because you were not finally growth and blah, 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 all this nonsense. What we know now is not true, of course. So at 18 years old, started working out at a gym where nobody knew anything. It was more of a badminton place with a few weights. So the owner also didn't know anything. So stayed there for 2 years. In these 2 years, I gained 5 kilograms of muscle. That's about 11 pounds. So without knowing anything, without doing anything, just pumping and pumping, reading the magazines, all the bullshit. So anyway, in these 2 years, I gained 22 pounds without knowing anything. So that was good. So then went to another gym where they were a little bit more of knowledge. And after, then we're talking about that I was 20 years old. So at 21, no, 22, I did my first natural competition. It was, it was the only natural league what we had in the Netherlands. So it was immediately on national level. Became second there in the till 70 kilograms. So that's what is 150 pounds, something like this.
Yeah.
Became second the year after that in 93.
At what height, Arjan? How tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
Okay.
So I was pretty skinny when I started working out. I weigh about 59 kilos. So that's what, 130, 135 pounds at
Yeah.
5'11". So that's pretty skinny. So I gained the 22 pounds, but I still didn't look like I was working out because finally came some meat on my frame. But anyway, in 92 I became second in the natural. A year later, I started doing. Then I started high intensity training. So in halfway 92, I started because Dorian Yates came in the picture, and I really gravitated towards this kind of training. I was already training different than other people, not too many sets, but I just started with my heaviest set and then worked down, staying at the 6 till 10 repetitions, but every set was heavy. So, but because I was a beginner, of course, it was still doable. But as I grew stronger and stronger and stronger, there's just I felt everything started to hurt. Everything it didn't connect good. So then
Right.
Dorian came with this HIT, and that worked also for a while, but also too much volume, too many workouts. Then I worked out for 3 times per week, 45 minutes, still one set. So one set of high intensity training, but multiple exercises. So pretty high volume actually for the high intensity community. That's pretty high volume. So and that did this for a very long time. Then I had to I stopped training completely because in my life just some things happened that I could not focus anymore. Changed jobs. I had a very light physical job, and now I have a very heavy physical job. So I just could not go to the gym as I was used to. So I stopped training for a while. I think 2 or 3 years. Lost almost all my gains. And in the meantime, I found out about Mike Menzer, and that was my savior, let's say, because now I understood that I don't have to go 3 or 4 times per week to the gym, even with high intensity training. I could do this much less, and yeah, my eyes were open. So I started following Mike Menzer's theory, and everything came back again. And I'm following since. And if people follow my YouTube channel, they know that I am changing a few things because of the material that I'm using, different tools. So
Right.
you get different rules.
Right. So now you mentioned one set. In some of your YouTube videos, you refer to a working set. And I
Yeah.
know that Mike Menser, I believe, even though he espoused the one set, often would do a few warm-up sets. And I know that in some circles that's, frowned on, unnecessary, whatever it is. But I always think that's kind of really splitting hairs because at the end of the day, whether it benefits or doesn't benefit, it's not like a couple of warm-up sets are going to suddenly throw you into overtraining and whatnot. So do you still do generally some warm-up sets, some exercise yes, some no, or
Well, let's say it like this. If I start my workout, it depends on how cold it is outside because I when I was still going to the gym, get into the car, and if it's winter, you're getting cold. So before you're warm into your workout, so then I do a few warm-up sets just to get everything going and just get the mindset also because that's also very important to get the mindset that you're really going to attack the weights.
right,
Uh, so yeah, then I use a warm-up. When it's warm outside, I use less warm-up because it's really for me a warm-up. It's really to get my the muscles warmed up, and if they're already warm, I just break in one set or two sets, and then go to my heaviest set. But like what I do now, it's I train in my basement. There it's always warm, so I don't have to do this. So I warm up actually with the first exercise, just purely to get into the mood. Because I come from work, I go sit down, drink some coffee to get the energy going a little bit and mentally, and then I go downstairs to my gym. But the hardest part is to get into it mentally. I think as you grow older also, and you still want to work hard, you have to get mentally into the zone. And
right,
first few sets help with this. And it's not a heavy set. It's not like that I'm going 80 or 90% of what I'm going to do. It's just to get into the mood
okay,
because I feel that there's when you do slow, and I understand these guys, these people that from the high end, because if you see them training, they do the slow movement. So if you do a slow movement, you use lighter weights. And because you do it slow, the first repetitions are already a warm up for you. And but I understand where they're coming from, because they just want to say, yeah, but you don't have to do that. You know, you can do warm up set, but you're using energy. What you and of course it's bullshit. Sorry, nonsense.
Yeah.
Be- because it's not going to take so much energy from you that you don't have any results from it. It's
That's right.
nonsense. It's just saying like, yeah, we do it like this, and yeah, you don't have to do it like that. You don't
Well,
have to do.
it's interesting. When I first started reading Ellington Darden books, the early books, and Ellington Darden was, of course, more or less the ambassador for Arthur Jones, because at that point, the early books, he worked for Nautilus. He was a director of research for Nautilus. And of course, the books were, if you when looking back on it now, they were kind of salesy. They were selling the Nautilus machines, they were selling the Nautilus system and whatnot. And at that time, basically the claims had to do with this being vastly superior to other forms of training. One thing I've noticed recently is that the rhetoric has come back to maybe there are many ways to get in shape, but this is going to be more efficient and safer. So not necessarily vastly superior, because I mean, anybody
Oh,
can only get to their genetic potential regardless of what they do. And if they stick to it long enough with a semi-intelligent sort of routine, they will get somewhat close to their genetic potential. As long as they don't hurt themselves, which is a big if, because a lot of things that are espoused are like that. But a lot of things are um, hair splitting, if you will. One of the videos that I watched this morning, or at least it's morning here, I don't know what it is over here, but shortly before, that I thought was very impressive is the one that's entitled How I Gained at Age 52. And you did a side by side comparison between 47 and 52. The main differences, if I recall, and you can correct me, was in one you were using more free weights and machines, and the second one you're using more rubber bands, and you were using a ketogenic diet in both, but in the one you had just begun and you referred to being more fully adapted in the other one. But unless I missed it, you stopped short of attributing the gains to any particular change other than you speculated it might just be more fully adapted to the diet. So maybe tell us a little bit about that video, because I probably didn't do a very good job. And you know, what, if anything, is just natural progression over time, or is anything else that you changed? Because it's pretty impressive to gain. Of course, I'm 64, and my gains, you know, that ship has likely sailed, but I'm going down scratching every bit of the way, right? And you know, like for me, I look at it as if I can lose 3 pounds of fat and put on 2 pounds of muscle, that'll actually look, I will look quite different. Doesn't sound very impressive, but
yeah.
I'll look quite different if I can do that. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that video.
Okay. Yeah, as you stated already, that I started the ketogenic diet, or a ketogenic diet, because there are so many different. But I started the true ketogenic diet, and that was horrible for me because I had to eat vegetables, what I never did. But somehow in the ketogenic diet, you have to eat vegetables, a lot of vegetables. So I started eating vegetables, what I never did. And when you make the transition, because yeah, as soon as you don't get your mother's milk anymore, they feed you carbohydrates
Right,
from that moment on. So 70% of what you eat, and maybe 80%, is carbohydrates. So your whole system starts to work like that. It's adapting to the to the system, because as long as you're in your mother's belly, you're ketogenic. I mean,
right,
you don't get carbohydrates, maybe a little bit of sugar, but not much. It's virtually that you're ketogenic. So as soon as you are getting the food from your parents, it's all carbohydrates. So for all these years, your body just runs perfectly on carbohydrates. Perfect, perfect. So as soon as you start changing that, that can take a while before your body really adapts to this system. And that was in the beginning the case because I normally ate 400 grams of carbohydrates a day. That was normal, 500 grams. And now I was only eating between 0 and 30. So that's a big difference. On your
Yeah.
whole body has to transition. What also going to happen then is that your muscles going to be more flat
Right.
because yeah, your body can make its own gluconeogenesis in the liver, but the whole system does not work that way yet. You still need to have some carbohydrates from outside before this whole system is fully adapted. So yeah, then you can see in this video that I'm a little bit more flat. The muscles are more or empty actually. There is
In the
some
before
carbohydrate
pictures.
in the before pictures, yeah. And
Yeah.
this I mentioned because I don't want to say, oh, you know what, I did this only by changing to resistance bands, because that's not true. I mean, if I would be still going to the gym, and one point was also very important to mention, then I was only training once or twice a week because I went to the gym, and in the weekdays I didn't have always time. Sometimes I went, so I trained once or twice a week. So it's also with once and twice a week of workout instead of now 2 times or 3 times per week. And the diet changed, so my whole system had to change. So it's not from, okay, I use now resistance bands and now I'm going to grow. No, no, it doesn't work like that. That's not the case. And I didn't want to portray it in my video. That's why I said, okay, I was starting this ketogenic diet, keto, yeah, really keto diet actually. And it takes a while for transitioning. So now my body is fully adapted to low to zero carb. Uh, Almost don't feel the difference if I don't eat carbs or I eat carbs. I just do it now just to fill my muscles a little bit more
Right.
up.
Right.
It's a little bit more easy in that case. But there are a lot of people who only eat in a carnivore way, really only meat and eggs and absolutely no carbohydrates, and they look incredible. But yeah, the system has to change, and that was in this video. Some part that you saw, and I think I stated it also, that I actually could be 2 kilograms, about 4.4 pounds heavier because of the carbohydrates, what I missed.
Yeah. Well, and also I mentioned before that you're knowledgeable, and one of the things that the general public doesn't realize, when people talk about gaining or losing muscle, one of the things they don't understand is that muscles are containers. And at any given
Yes.
point in time, they are holding more or less water and more or less glycogen. So having done a little bit of bodybuilding myself, and you've done it, the whole idea of peaking for a contest is to have just that right combination, because if you're holding too much water and glycogen, you look big, but you look smooth. And if you're holding too little, you look ripped, but you look small.
Yeah, that's
And,
the whole balance.
and one of the things I'm always amazed by is, you look at yourself in the mirror, well, maybe not yourself, but myself. I'll use myself as an example. And some days you kind of look and say, oh, I look pretty good. And other days you kind of look and say, Jesus, am I the same guy? Like I don't even look like I work out in this. And often it's just glycogen and water retention. So that's why I have a body composition tool that I use on a regular basis, but I take it with a lot of grains of salt, because muscle mass is really a moving target, right? In terms of what you're holding or not holding. So now you mentioned a diet. Maybe I'll just digress a little bit to diet. So one of the things you posted lately, because you mentioned ketogenic, and I've been looking at animal-based diets personally. And I'm intrigued, and there seems to be some good evidence for the benefits of it. But frankly, my hesitation comes from the fact that there's certain things I'm just really reluctant to give up. I mean, I love meat, And I love all these things, but I'm thinking, geez, I quit drinking. I'm 31 years clean and sober. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. And it's like, geez, I got to have some stuff in my life. And I'm thinking, and so this morning I was listening to I didn't listen to it all, but the video that you posted on your Facebook page by Dr. Paul Saladino.
Yeah.
And I was intrigued because even though he refers to animal-based diet and he refers to getting rid of seed oils, which I'm already doing, and high fructose corn syrup and things like that, but then he went on, I skipped ahead a little bit because I didn't have time to watch it all, that he consumes quite a bit of carbohydrates from fruit and honey. And of
Yeah.
course, now he's highly active. He's being a surfer. He surfs 2 hours a day every single day. So, but he mentioned that, going too low in carbs. And I do notice there was another video I watched of yours of what I eat. And I noticed there was 100 grams of rice in there at one point. So and you say you eat fruit. So, see, when I think of animal-based diet, and I think, okay, you still eat fruit. And, certain things that we call vegetables are really fruit, like cucumbers and tomatoes and things like that. So I'm thinking, okay, I could probably, live with that because I just don't want to eat nothing but meat. It just seems, I mean, maybe I'd adapt and get used to it, but I'm having a hard time getting my head around it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So now, Paul Saladino's video was entitled, I think, Animal-Based Diet 2023. So what are your thoughts on the inclusion of fruits and honey in a diet? And based on that video, I'm sure you posted it. You must have also listened to it.
Yeah. Well, Paul Saladino is a little bit of the black sheep of the carnivore community.
Mm-hmm.
He started out. It's the same as the high intensity. You have the ones that do it completely strict and everything. Where you go a little bit out of the side, and oh, that's not good. While nothing's going to change and nothing's going to happen. And with the carnivore community, you have exactly the same. You have some people that are so strict with it and so strict rules, and then you have Paul Saladino, who started out exactly like that, but somehow he started to implementing more fruits, more honey, more sugar in his diet. So I say he's a little bit of the black sheep of the family.
Right.
And the thing is, there's a difference between if you do it for body composition or really health wise,
Right.
because high amounts of fructose is not a good thing. But fructose goes straight to the liver, and there it's going to be changed, or it stays there as fat. That's a non-alcoholic fatty liver comes from this,
Right.
and that's from high fructose. But when you're using so much energy as what he does, then most likely you're going to burn it up. And also, not everybody is the same. I was never ever overweight, never overfed. I was always quite ripped, and I ate 400 to 500 grams of carbohydrates. Well, other people that I know that are go a little bit higher, and they grow like I don't know what, they get fatter and fatter and fatter.
Right.
Uh, and if you hear Paul Saladino talking, also he's like a da, 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 da. So his mind also works much faster, and I think that's also one big point. Because me too, if I'm at work, I'm always singing in my head. I'm singing, I have music in my head all day. It goes on and on and on. So my brain is very active. And I think that burns also lots of sugar, lots of carbohydrates.
Right.
So I think for a long time, he can get away with it. But on a cellular level, what they're talking about, that's maybe completely different animal. And this is something that they are scared of for him, that in the long run, on cellular level, that is not going to be good. But what I always say, we'll see. I mean, I have
Yeah.
many naysayers on my channel because I do not like to post that much about my nutrition, because I get all kinds of vegan weirdos and people that say
You,
no,
you,
but
you,
you
it's
have to eat
almost as
like
bad
this.
as it's almost nutrition is almost as controversial as religion and politics.
It's in exactly the same.
Yeah.
Especially when you have people that really do not like to kill or hurt animals, and also don't like to hurt and kill them, but I like to eat them because I feel that I need them for my health, for certain vitamins and minerals that you don't get from other food. So I don't like to take supplements, or I don't think I need to take supplements as long as I eat like this. But for me, if I would cut out the fruits, and I don't eat much fruit, I eat some blueberries and once in a while some banana. And around my workouts, I eat some honey. I take 2 tablespoons or no, teaspoons of honey. So that's it. I am probably mostly about between 30 and 100 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Okay.
And I drink lots of raw milk. So there's also lots of sugar in there. But yeah, I say this is same with the high intensity training. You have the people that are so strict, and probably they have from their own that as soon as they go off the track, they get health problems. That can be. I
Right.
mean, there's I know enough people. I'm moderator on some page, and the one who runs the page, he is 100% carnivore, and it's not because he can say, "Oh, you see, I don't eat sugar," but as soon as he goes off the track, he gets health problems.
Right.
He has arthritis in his fingers. So, and as soon as I have this also, as soon as I eat more or too much carbs, then I'm holding more water, and
Right.
my fingers get very stiff. So as soon as I cut that out, my fingers are limber again, and I don't have that problem. So yeah, a lot is it's not just from the carbohydrate or the sugar, but it's more from the holding water from the carbohydrates and the sugar.
Well,
That is the problem.
one of the things you bring up, and I've found over the last little while that I've become fascinated by cognitive biases, which is errors, how we think and how we make errors in our thinking. And one of them, there are many, but one of them that's really strong is confirmation bias,
Yeah,
which is, you know what that is, but for people who don't know, is anything that you hear that agrees with what you already believe. You think, man, that guy's smart. And anybody who brings up something that you don't currently agree with, you immediately dismiss as some nut bar. And you're seeing that, we talked about politics, religious, nutrition, training. You mentioned about some people in the carnivore, community and things like that. I find that's unfortunate because I always think, can I learn something from somebody? You know what I mean? Like if I look at the bodybuilder who's pumped full of steroids and works out 8 days a week and 4 hours a day, my first thing would be, well, this guy, he's just an idiot, doesn't know what he's doing. But to me, if I can say, well, okay, I probably don't agree with most of what he does, but that doesn't mean that this guy doesn't have a certain exercise that he does that's really beneficial that I could pick something up from. And I find that there's people shut things down and shut their minds down and rob themselves of potentially being able to learn from each other type of thing.
I
Now,
think I think yeah, I think in the high intensity community, but this is my personal belief that the people that do this, many of them have something to sell. They have a clientele, and you see this also in the nutrition, the dietists and things like this, that they're so against ketogenic diet or carnivore diet simply because they don't have the study for it. They go to this to school and learn all these things, and they don't learn anything about this. And now they have a big clientele, and then they come with the ketogenic diet that you don't need any dietist for it. Actually, you can
right,
do this yourself. And now they see their clientele getting smaller, so they try to convince everybody that it's dangerous and you're going to die from it. Well, there are people who do this for decades,
right,
30, 40, 50 years. And our ancestor did it for well, how many few million years.
yeah,
So and with the high intensity training also, as soon as you start to say, yeah, I train with resistance, but all resistance curve and this and that and that, blah blah, yeah, but it's a different tool. So if you
yeah,
have a different tool, You should use different rules. You cannot use the same rules with a machine or a dumbbell, but they have a certain clientele. They train these people with machines or with the dumbbells, and now you come with resistance bands, and or they have to change their whole programs, or they going to say, no, yeah, but it's not good. No, it doesn't work, and but
Yeah.
they have something to lose.
Well, and if you understand the principles of exercise, I'm sure that tomorrow, if you got stranded on a desert island and you had no equipment of any type, you would still be able to work out and keep in good shape. Just using
Yeah,
your body weight and whatever rudimentary tools you were able to fashion out of, whatever sticks and wood and whatever it is, right? If you understand the principles.
yeah,
One of the things, too, you mentioned confirmation bias and people having something to sell, is confirmation bias becomes stronger if, let's say, for example, you went to school and you spent $100,000 getting an education and you learn certain things. It's going to take a lot to convince you that what you learned was wrong. Or if you are known as an expert in your field and you've been telling people this or publishing books like this for many years, it's going to take a lot of personal integrity to actually go, I was wrong about
mm-hmm.
this, that, or the other thing, right? So it becomes, the people are invested. There's a saying, if convincing you is going to impact your paycheck, I'm unlikely to convince you.
Yeah.
So now, having one of the things I want to go to training is set extenders, because you use now in some of the videos, you've mentioned to using them sometimes, but in other videos, as you're saying the certain workouts, you seem to be using a fair amount of rest pause and things like that. So so let me just go back a bit. You said that one of the things you went from working out twice a week to so once or twice to two or three. Did you adjust so you're a little more frequency, did you adjust the volume so that the overall volume was about the same, or does that also include having a little more volume?
It's more based on changing the tool.
Right.
So when I was training with weights or with machines, it takes a little bit longer for recovery from your nervous system, longer than with resistance bands, because I feel with the resistance bands you don't have the negative. The negative becomes more easy,
Right.
and and that's where you get with a resistance curve. That if you have a good right machine, then then the negative stays the same. So every inch of the movement is the same feeling. And with resistance bands, you don't have this. So that's the problem with the resistance bands, with the negative. So when you do just regular sets and you go to positive failure, then there's still enough what you can do. It's not enough. And then when they say, yeah, you see, resistance bands don't work, when you use them the same as a machine or as a dumbbell, and you just go to positive failure that you can't make a full rep anymore and you stop, that's not enough. Anyway, I don't get the same feeling then with the resistance bands as I would have with the machines or with the free weights. So so then I started implementing this set extenders. I started out with trying omni contractions, what Mike Menzer started with. So for the people that they don't know with the omni contractions, what he did actually was like a rest pause. You do one repetition, then you lower the weight a little bit, then you start resisting it. There should not be any movement because it is just maximum weight for one repetition. Then you lower it again for a few inches. Then you start pushing it again until you 4 or 5 seconds, and then you lower it again. So I did the same with the resistance bands. I just go to positive failure, then I lower it a little bit. And because the end of the resistance band is so much more heavy, that you really can't move anything, but I just keep pushing for 5 6 seconds and then go down again. So where officially originally the easiest part is, becomes really as hard as the top part. So then you can go to real failure. So because you can't use the negative, you have to find some way to, and yeah, with, I don't know if you know the X bar system.
Right. I've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this overpriced, overpriced system. They just keep on continuing till they can't move anymore. So they go to positive failure, and then as far as they can, and 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 at the end make 20 or 30 repetitions like this. And I thought, no, okay, let's see if I can find something else. But you need to do set extenders like this. You cannot go to just positive failure and then stop. It's not
So,
enough. Maybe as a beginner it is, but when you're already training for 20 or 30 years and your body is just used to a certain amount of intensity and work, it's not enough. So then
so
I started to,
you're so you're using more, if I understand correctly, you're using more set extenders with rubber band with bands than you were with machines to sort of overcome some of the shortcomings of the bands.
yeah, because with the machines you can do a slow negative.
Right.
And with the resistance band doesn't make sense because then it becomes a really slow negative because every inch becomes more easy. So you can hold it longer for this time. So instead of having a slow negative of 10 seconds, what is really fighting against the weight, you don't have this with resistance bands.
Right.
So then I started using this set extenders. And
So
they have,
you refer to something as an M set.
yeah,
And I
that's,
noticed I watched one of them that I watched. You did it with different exercise, but you did one with a squat,
mhm.
and so it looked brutal. I
Oh,
have here. I have a duo leg press, a Nautilus duo leg press. I don't know if you're familiar with either the
yeah,
Nautilus duo squat or the Nautilus duo leg press.
yeah,
So the thing that Arthur Jones was trying to do with that machine is it's a reverse cam. So what happens is with a leg press or a squat, it's harder at the bottom and it gets easier as you get closer to full extension of your legs.
yeah,
Well, on a duo squat, if you've tried it, you know this, or a duo leg press, if you're going, when you get out, the cam is such that it gets exponentially heavier as you get to full extension. Similar to bands, but the problem with it, and I think the reason that Nautilus discontinued, and when he went on to MedX, he went on to other things, was with the duo squat, the weight got so heavy when you got to full extension that you felt like your shoulders were being crushed into the seat pads, and I've had to adapt. I use it sometimes, but I adapt it somewhat to avoid that. On the duo leg press, you feel like your pelvis, if you use it with as much weight as you can handle, when you get to full extension, almost feels like your pelvis is being crushed. It has a very heavily padded seat, but it feels like you're being crushed into the seat. But a bit of a tangent there, but I'm getting the feeling with your M set on the squats, you're achieving a similar thing to what, because even when you're at the bottom, yes, it's easier because of the band, but you're still using your body weight at that point. So it's still not super easy, but maybe explain more the M set for people who are not familiar.
well, the M set is actually one big ego trip because the M is the first letter of my last name.
Okay, kind of like J reps with Brian Johnson.
Yep. That's a little bit based on that, yeah. How I came with this? Well, I thought of there when you have the resistance bands, it does not matter so much which exercise you do. The top part is the heaviest part. So for me, that is the part where you can get the most profit. So I could do, of course, just continue the top part with every exercise until I can't do anymore and then go to the mid range. But I did not get the real feeling because I always have in the back of my mind, how would it feel if I would machines? If I finish with the training with the machine, how do I feel then? Do I get the same satisfaction? This is actually my guideline. Did I get satisfaction from the exercise? How tortured do I feel? Because I really like to torture myself. So this is my base. So I thought, okay, let's see what I can do. And I started with experimenting with the M set in 4 different places. So let's say for the squat, you go up, which is the top part is the heaviest part because the resistance bands is stretched. Then I go to about 1/5 of the movement, stop there, go up again. And I started first with a stuck cadence, so 2 seconds up and 5 seconds down. So what you get then is in 2 seconds, because the exercise, when you go up, you cannot have momentum. With the normal weight, what is the same, you can have momentum. When you push it very quickly, you feel that the weight gets easier. You don't have this with resistance bands because every inch becomes more heavy. So
Right.
in 2 seconds, go up. Then in 5 seconds, just this 1/5 of the movement. And that's not so far. So that's pretty heavy. Then I stop from there, go up again, which is the heaviest part. Then I go again a little bit lower to 2/5 of the movement. Stop there and go up again. So and then go to 3/5. Then the last part 4/5, and then I start my set all over again. I did 2 cycles of 4 partials, so there's 8 repetitions. But it's heavy because you use the heaviest part, and as you get more tired, the the movement becomes greater. So with every rep that you do, the movement becomes greater until you go for the second cycle. Then you start all over again. So you use more of the heaviest part of the exercise.
Is there a break between the first cycle and the second cycle?
The only break what you have is that you can start all over again, but without break. So
Right.
the break is in the squat, the bottom position. So
Right.
there you start with every movement that you make. And I had the problem with this, and I'm not that technical with everything, but I had a problem with this X3 bar system, and I place some comment there that the way they do it with the full repetitions is every time resting,
Right.
because with every movement that you make, you're using 100% of that muscle fiber, but not the motor. So every time the motor units are being used. So every time when you do full repetitions, the easiest part, you use less muscle fibers and less motor units. So every time when you go back to the basic, to the beginning of the movement, it's for me resting.
Right.
It can be beneficial because for this you have rest pause, that you rest between the sets, you get some little bit of energy back, and then you can use this energy again for as a set extension. So I try to incorporate this with my M set, that with the second cycle you go all the way back. It's a little bit resting, but then you start again to the stop position, which is hard again.
So
uh,
let me make sure I understand.
yeah, yeah,
So I go to the bottom, I start. So I'm starting it, I'm going up to the top, down one
yeah,
fifth, up to the top, down 2/5, up to the top, down 3/5, up to the down 4/5, and then up to the top, all the way down,
all the way down,
then
and
back
then
up and start
and then
again.
and then start again. And this 8 repetitions, this 8 partials should be enough. Enough that you um yeah, let's say it like this. It's very difficult to get the right resistance band to do these 8 repetitions, but that's the best. If you can do 8 of these partials and you try the ninth repetition, you should not make it. That's your finish.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to touch a little bit on the concept of overtraining.
Hmm.
So, of course, there's all different schools of thought on overtraining. And I do think that people, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, have to consider all the various stresses in their lives, not just their workouts, because you might have a physical job or they might have a mentally stressful job. They could be having issues in their personal life. Their sleep might be compromised. But I do think that sometimes in the HIT community, we've overly um, we've gotten a little too anal about it. It's like, oh my God, you did an extra set, you've overtrained, it's not going to work. And I think
Yeah.
overtraining is something that happens over a fairly long period of time, right? If you train, like one time I did an experiment in the Body by Science book, and I love Doug McGuff, and I know at the time when he wrote that book, he was heavily influenced by Ken Hutchins. But he made the point that if you did leg presses and you went to failure, the next day, if you went back and did leg presses away, you wouldn't be recovered, so you wouldn't be able to do as much. Well, I did leg presses for 20 days in a row, and I added a little more weight every time.
Okay.
So, and now I gain muscle? I don't think I gained any muscle, but I kept adding a little more weight every time. But I do know that if I had continued that for whatever length of time, I would have eventually overtrained for sure. I was probably getting there type of thing. But I don't think it's as simple as, you know what I mean? Like one day you did it, so the next day you're going to be weaker type of thing. I just don't think we're that fragile as a whatnot. But one thing I do notice is that when my clients miss a workout or two, or recently I went on a holiday and I was away and they all missed 2 weeks. Virtually all of them came back and had great workouts, their first workout back. And I didn't reduce the weights or anything like that. So all this is leading up to an actual question, which is, do you schedule specific layoffs during the year where you'll take time off, or do you just happen to let that happen spontaneously because life happens and you go on a holiday or whatever it is? Or what's your thought about, say, remember the Darden books would often say you'd have a program would last 6 or 12 weeks, and then he would say, now take 10 days off and then do it again. So what's your feeling on periodic complete layoffs from training?
Well, periodization. That's how it's called, right? Yeah. Training for a certain periods. I think that's a little bit based, and when you know the program of the last program of Ellington Darden, this 30-10-30, that's how many? Three times per week, full body, something like this. So that's on the verge of overtraining. So then
Right.
I can imagine that after 6 weeks, he says, "Oh, take some time off," because you go towards overtraining. It's just there's a problem with the high intensity training community that somehow you're not allowed to like training. You're not allowed to like the torture. You
Right.
have to hate it. And because you hate it, you only should go once a week.
Right.
And so for myself, I try to balance the things out because I like to train. I like the torture. So with my last program, I still have to post one video and this 4 videos. And I did this program for, I could do this for about 6 to 8 weeks. And then I had to cut back. I did 3 workouts per week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And after 6 weeks, I started to notice this not going to be right. But because I like to train, I go to that certain point and then I have to back off. I start to
Right.
hurt a little, I start to feel a little bit of pains that should not be there. That's because I like to train. But I understand this high intensity guys. Like with Mike Menzer also, he tried to bring it in a certain way that if you take enough rest, you still have enough compensation and enough uh, stimulation to grow and not overtrain. So you can do this year in, year out. And as soon as you get stronger, take a little bit more rest. But after a while, it takes a little bit the fun away.
Right.
So there's a little bit of, uh, yeah, duality, a little bit of that's there's one group that says, oh, you should not train that many times because you're going to overtrain. But then again, then you train maybe only once a week or 3 times per 2 weeks. Okay, you're not going to overtrain and you get your results. But there's enough people that like to train. I'm
Right.
going to miss. So I try to find the balance because every workout is full. It's full out. It's not As soon as I don't feel like it, I don't go. So it's not going to do I'm not going to do a half workout. I had in the past, then I go to the gym, half hour in the car, and halfway the first exercise, and it's not going to work. So I go home. I'm not going to do the rest half. So I just go home, and then a few days later I go again. So that's. But I did also one experiment, and it's a video that I did years ago. It's also on my YouTube channel. That I got sick, and I didn't train. I think for 3 weeks. And there's a video from then I did dumbbell squats, and I did exactly no, I think I did more repetitions, one or two more repetition after 3 week of layoff. You notice your cardiovascular system is going down. I think if you notice yourself, if you don't train for 2-3 weeks and you don't do anything at all,
Right.
you just notice that the strength is there, something missing. The next exercise, the strength is still there, but it's getting harder than before.
Right.
And this I noticed that the cardiovascular system goes down, but the strength, yeah, this stays the same. After 2 weeks, it goes up again, and after 3-4 weeks, then yeah, it stays the same as the last workout.
What I tell clients when they come back, because sometimes they say, well, did you lower the weights? I haven't been here in 2 weeks. And I said, no, I didn't lower the weights. I just put whatever weight, was based on what you did last time. If you did enough, I raised it. And I tell them your perception of difficulty may increase because you may have forgotten how hard this was and you might find it harder, but your strength will be there. But the conditioning, I often find if they are going to have something negative after a layoff, it's in the last couple of exercises because they tend to run out of gas. And I think that's the cardiovascular. And Doug McGuff speculated that the recovery for strength and the recovery for conditioning might be different, which creates a bit of a conundrum in trying to figure out the right frequency. Because different adaptations seem to occur over different periods of time. So I mean that's food for thought, if you will. So now going forward, you're up to 7,000 subscribers, or very close to 7,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel.
So 7,000 and a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not quite Joe Rogan yet, but that's pretty impressive. I watch mine because I know that once you get so many hours of listening and once you get so many subscribers, you can monetize your YouTube channel. And I see that you have some little ads and things, whatnot, that come on and things like that. Do you see yourself eventually having this be a significant enough source of income that you might leave your job and do this full time?
No, no, I need some security.
Right.
The money goes really up and down, up and down, up and down. And then YouTube start to change their policies, and they just demonetize all your videos because of something. I had some videos from Mike Mansard. It's all copyrighted free. And I had to take them all off because they demonetized my whole YouTube channel because there are videos on there that other people also shared. So if more people share the same video and they find out, they just demonetize the whole program. So that's dangerous. And they change every so many months. They change policies. Like now they have some policy what I don't work with, but some people like to use foul language to lure in people.
Right.
So if you can use some words, but as soon as there's more of them, they don't monetize your whole video. But if you use in your first 30 seconds some of this language, they also demonetize it because they feel then you try to lure people in. And that's what they do, of course, in the intro.
Sure.
And then they just demonetize the whole your whole video. So now they're going really for people, because I know enough people that have they use the language like this just to for the younger people. They like it, like a little bit of drama. And they just go through all the videos and they demonetize all these videos. So no, I'm not really. And the income is also not that great that you say, well, you can really live from it, and because 30% goes to tax, of course.
Right.
uh, it's not tax free. But I am thinking that when I go with pension, that I want to grow my YouTube channel. So this is a nice side money.
Right. So
So
you now, are you also on a podcast, like an audio podcast?
no, 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 no,
Because
no.
I think on because with YouTube, if I understand correctly, because I'm a novice at this, I mean, when somebody subscribes, that doesn't do anything other than, it's nice to say. But on certain podcasts and whatnot, people will pay to subscribe.
You can this
Um,
with you. This can also be with YouTube. You need at least, I think, 1,000 subscribers for
right.
monetization nowadays. Before it was 2,000, and at least 4,000 hours watch time per year.
But you can't charge people to subscribe.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as you're monetized, then you can have, if you have an online shop, which I also have, it goes below the video. You have a hole that they can click and they can go to the shop. This you can get subscribers that pay, that just give you some money because they like your video. They can just donate some money. This is what they can do. And you can have subscriptions. And these subscriptions, you can do whatever you want. You can, if you want that they have to pay $100 per month, they pay $100 per month.
Right.
So this
And you can use, I guess there's something called Patreon as well, where,
Patreon you can do. I was looking into it, but no, I don't go further with that. I am thinking, but the thing is with the when you have these memberships, that's good when you have a podcast, because you have to give something extra. You have to every month upload a few certain things so your members are happy with this. Because as soon as they start to make problems, then YouTube is going to make problems with you.
right,
Because yeah, YouTube is a business and you work for them actually. And so as soon as they don't like what you're doing, your content or whatever, and they have the right, and they just kick you off.
right. So I'm going to kind of get close to winding it up to not take too much of your time. I really appreciate your taking the time. So you can see behind me here, I have some machines, and I have about 20 machines here, Nautilus and Hammer Strength, and one MedX lumbar machine. So my question is, because I'm at home, because one of your advantages of doing the tubes, not, or the bands rather, is that you don't have to drive that half an hour to gym and half an hour back.
Yeah.
So if you had my facility tomorrow, would you stick with machines, or would you still combine some bands and some machines, because you can see both as good tools?
It's a very hard question, because the reason why I started with this resistance bands was because of COVID. The gyms were closed and I had some weights at home. So I started using them. Somebody challenged me to, if I could do, somebody on my YouTube channel, a few of them actually, if I could make some program or just try them out and see what I've liked. And I liked them very much. But as soon as I have an own gym, then I don't know if I would still use the resistance bands.
Right,
And because there's something with the gym.
right,
I don't want to take a subscription anymore. I don't want to drive there anymore. Just it takes too much of my time, and it's much more easy, and I get enough satisfaction and enough muscle gains and all these things from the resistance bands. But when I have the right equipment, then I would use the equipment, and maybe in combination of the resistance bands, because I like the way they feel in a certain way, that the peak contraction is a little bit more feisty, let's say. That's the hardest sport, so it's really maybe I would skip a few weeks this, a few weeks that, just to
Right.
change.
Right.
This probably I would do, but it's a very hard question. But
So
I'm jealous.
I will stop the recording shortly. I want to thank you very much for taking the time, but stay on for just a little bit
I will.
afterwards. Anyways, thank you so much. This was really interesting. I enjoyed it. I hope we can do it again at some point in the future.
Yes, of course. I have enough to talk about.
All right.
And
All right.
thank you
I'm
very much.
just signing off for now.